on page 9, and on page 11 he speaks further about the victims of lawful plunder. And to quote him here now is apropos. Men naturally rebel against the injustice of which they are victims. Thus, when plunder is organized by law for the profit of those who make the law, all the plundered classes somehow try to enter by peaceful or revolutionary means into the making of laws. According to their degree of enlightenment, these plundered classes may propose one of two entirely different purposes when they attempt to attain political power. I want to go back to something that was noted in our first segment, something that was noted in our Montana Constitution that works in conjunction with our Declaration of Independence. Stated here, we the people, or let me see, in part 2, in section 2 of our Montana Constitution, it said the power to implement federal policies in and for Montana is central to the ability of the people of Montana to govern themselves. So that coincides with what Frederick Bastiat has to say right here, an age-old problem of limited enlightenment. He says, according to their degree of enlightenment, these plundered classes may propose one of two entirely different purposes when they attempt to attain political power. Number one, they may wish to stop lawful plunder, or two, they may wish to share in it. He goes on to say, woe to the nation when this latter purpose prevails among the mass victims of lawful plunder, when they, in turn, seize power to make laws. He goes on further on page 22, where under this section entitled Legal Plunder Has Many Names, he states the following. All these plans as a whole, with their common aim of legal plunder, constitute socialism. Now, since under this definition socialism is a body of doctrine, what attack can be made against it other than a war of doctrine? If you find this socialistic doctrine to be false, absurd, and evil, then refute it. And the more false, the more absurd, and the more evil it is, the easier it will be to refute. Above all, if you wish to be strong, begin by rooting out every particle of socialism that may have crept into your legislation. This will be no light task. I think this is something that we in America really need to start to do and see the benefits of. And that is elect to reduce, not elect to continue. The success of returning to a government of our initial form will only come through our thoroughness of abolishing altogether any and all legislation that does not fit into that original form of both our Declaration of Independence or our Constitution and Bill of Rights. The firmer we stand, and the sooner evil government will tumble. But the real question is, will we appreciate our God-given endowment enough to do this and carry this task out? It is our duty to do this. I believe that we need to enter the fray to actually accomplish this mission, to accomplish this duty. It is an endowment that God has given to us in this country to put an end to it entirely. Not an end to government, but an end to legislation that would strip us of our duties to actually secure the paths of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness now as we understand it. This is the end of the second segment, so stay tuned for part 3. Again, I'm your host, Rain Gilstrom, and thank you for your kind attention. Hi, and welcome to part 3 of a 4-part series on the Declaration of Independence. My name is Rain Gilstrom, and I am your host. The title of this 4-part series has been With the Certain Endowment Fund of Our Inalienable Rights, Life, Liberty, and the Pursuit of Happiness, comes the ultimate duty. What we're doing is reviewing the often overlooked tenets of the Preamble to the Declaration of Independence. Again, the importance of doing this is through an appeal that I make to you I think it's more important in order to get back to limited government that we make it a priority to re-embrace and agree on the tenets of the Declaration of Independence all over again. I believe if we do not do that as a priority number one, that getting back to constitutionally limited government will be an absolute impossibility, because the two documents that found our country are inseparable from one another in their initial ideas and their purposes. So in this third section, or this third part of this four-part series, we're going to be dealing with the third sentence of the Preamble. And I'll read that for you right now. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and provide new guards for their future security. The dictionary defines events as, number one, to constitute outward evidence and to display clearly or reveal. Essentially, events, the term here is evinces a design. So a long train of abuses and usurpations evinces a design. So, and of course, with a design comes a designer, or maybe multiple designers. I think we have enough evidence before us to realize that these times clearly show that in the light of God's word from Romans 13:3, that rulers have indeed become a fear for good behavior instead of a fear for evil behavior. Therefore, we can safely conclude today that it is far more easier and much more legal to do evil at the expense of the righteous than ever in our country's history. 100 years ago, the emerging design was not as clearly visible as it is today. Conspiracy theories of the past have become conspiracy realities of the present. But since it is so visible, by Frederick Bastier's standpoint in the law that we went over in the second part, is the more ridiculous they are, the easier they should fall. But we do need to stand, and we need to refute it, and you refute it by standing against it and pursuing the abolishment of it altogether. He wants Frederick Bastier's suggestion. His suggestion was to root out every particle of socialism that may have crept into our legislation. So we should be electing leaders to actually root out every particle of socialism that has crept into our state governments and our federal government. Let's look at the next word in the third sentence of the Preamble: despotism. The first definition is ruled by a despot. Second is a country ruled by a despot. The third definition is absolute power or control or tyranny. The United States of America is a Christian nation in origin, founded upon God's very principles of justice, liberty, freedom, and righteousness. I think we've spent some adequate time to prove that fact from the Preamble of the Declaration of Independence. It is America's national philosophy. It is America's national identity. It is the preeminent reason to provide national security.